Today we're chatting all things branding with my girl and the founder and CEO of BrandUp, Anna Nassery. BrandUp is a creative agency that specializes in brand development and custom websites for market-leading brands all over the globe. And they help them create designs that are both intentional as well as beautiful. I've known Anna for a little over a year now, and that's actually one of the things I admire most about her, is the way she has built her company and team has been very, very intentional. So I'm excited for you to hear her perspective on how you can bring some of that same intentionality into your own brand and business. So let's dive into today's episode. All right, welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited to be having this conversation today because this woman is someone who I have just been dying to drop in with and connect further. And so why not do it on a podcast? You guys, this is why you should have a podcast. You get to invite your favorite people on and catch up with them for the benefit of the rest of the world. So Anna, thank you so much for being here today.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So you and I got to connect through the mastermind that we were both in last year. And I will never forget the first day. You walk into a mastermind and it's like a little bit intimidating, especially a room filled with epic entrepreneurs like we were in. And you were sitting right next to Elliot and I. It might have been on the second day, but I just remember having that sense that like, I need to know what this woman is up to in the world. And you are one of those people. This is why you are so successful. You really asked far more about what we were up to and how you could serve us than you ever got a chance to share about your work in the world. So now I feel like this is kind of my chance to like flip the script and get to make you talk more about your journey, your story, starting your company. So I can't wait to hear. Selfishly, I can't wait to hear the story as well.
Yes, it's funny. Like, I feel like the mastermind was like the first day of school.
Yeah,
it's like you're at a brand new high school. You're like, wait, it's a lot of stimulation too. So I'm really glad we had a chance to connect.
Yes. So I'm going to have you start there because I really would love to hear the story behind your company, BrandUp, which I talked a little bit about in the intro, and now getting to experience I'm just at the very beginning of working with you and your team. And I'm already blown away just by like the culture and the company that you've built. But where did that all start? How did you come up with the idea to start the company?
Thank you. Well, it was actually really interesting because I didn't grow up with an entrepreneur bone in my body, right? My family values higher education and corporate infrastructure. And I spent the first 12 years in my career working at early stage and late stage startups up in Silicon Valley. And the last startup I worked for, I wore a ton of hats. So I was in marketing, which was it's a big blanket term, as we know. So I remember we fired our creative director and I kind of took over and I managed our design team. And then we hired this really dope branding agency in New York. And I remember they flew us out there and we had this really great branding exercise with archetypes and all these other things. And I was just like, wow, this is fascinating. And I came back and I was like, I would love to do that, but not on the brand side. I want to work with different companies and establish their brand and their blueprint. And then, just keep making that kind of magic. And it was really fascinating too, because so much of that revolves around psychology and user behavior. And, which is really fascinating. To me, it stimulates my left brain and my right brain at the same time. So I remember coming back and I was like, I kind of like this. I could do this. And I ended up quitting that job because I was like, all right, I'm going to move back down to LA, which is where I'm from. And I would love to start my own agency one day. But until then, I want to work at a brand agency so I can figure out all of like the masculine parts of the business, like contracts and legal and how to scope things out. And do I need a sales team and all these things that are really overwhelming for me. And I actually lived with Angie Lee at the time. So I moved in we were roommates for like 2 years. And she had a mastermind at the time. And I was like, what is a mastermind? I'm here. I just moved down from San Francisco. I'm like, what is a mastermind? Like, what is that? And she was like, don't worry about it. Do you want to coach on branding? I was like, sure. And I I coached a few of her women on it. And then I got some clients out of it. And I was like, all right, somebody needs a website, somebody needs a logo, like let's figure it out. And I had a Rolodex of really wonderful creatives that I worked with in my career. And I was like, before I knew it, before I had the thing that I was overthinking, I was already doing it. And I was like, okay. And I just ended up hiring out mentors and, a mentor like Chris. And I had somebody help with the legal side of things. And I had somebody help with the financial side of things. And I feel like I put all these people together to fill in the gaps that I would have spent the next 5 to 10 years picking up at an agency.
Yeah.
So it all kind of just fell in my lap.
Which I'm obsessed with this story for a few reasons. Let me list them out. Okay. So the first thing, when I realized that you had done it you'd scaled this company in, I would say maybe the less traditional way, meaning a lot of people start as like a solopreneur. They're doing all the things. Then eventually they scale beyond themselves. They hire a team. You saw this vision for an epic company, something that was so needed in the marketplace, especially for smaller scale businesses, ones who were poised to scale. And you didn't necessarily have like the web development background, all of the things that could, if someone had this vision, stop them dead in their tracks. So was that innate in you, just to not get stuck in the details? Or was it the fact that this business kind of came to you and you had to figure it out or else?
The latter, 100%.
Really?
I'm such a details person, and I tend to let things block me if I don't feel prepared. And this will come full circle. I'm going to hop back into this a little bit about This is now my mission to empower people when they feel like they're stuck early on and they're like, I don't have a perfect logo. I don't have a perfect website. I don't have ABC, and they prevent themselves from taking the leap, because I'm such a great testament to that I'm obviously like, look at what I do for a living. I'm a big details person.
Yeah.
Yet I figured all this out with nothing, like no financial backing, no technical background in a lot of it, like in the infrastructure part. And it all just kind of happened because I had to figure it out.
Yeah. And there's so much power in that statement. I'm obsessed with it for so many reasons. But what I want to know about is part of what made this magical is you've really cultivated this very intentional team. And like I said, I've only had like electronic interactions with your team members, and I can already tell they're just the most badass humans on the planet. And the way you talk about your team, tell me how that process was. Was it easy to find these people in the beginning? What do you think led to this team that you now have coming together? Because I'm sure there's, some ups and downs to it.
Oh my goodness. So it's funny, Lindsay, because I can compare this. I've always seen business as being a microcosm for the way you operate the rest of your life, right? And right before we pushed record, you and I were talking about just friendship and connection and all these other things. And something I recognize is that anytime I get intentional with what I want to call in, whether it's group of friends, whether it is a relationship, it always falls under my lap, right? So I early on when I had the agency too, when I had so much going on, all the figure outing of the technical details and how to structure everything, I was not intentional about values, about vision. I knew it here. I knew it was in the back of my mind, but I never put it on paper. It's like manifestation, right? As soon as you put things down on paper, you're putting it into physical form, right? So with my team, I remember it was I launched BrandUp about 3.5 years ago. And around 2 years ago is when I started having the time and the space of being like, why am I doing this? Am I doing this? Am I building this to sell? Am I doing this for money? Am I doing this for credibility? What is it? And I put a lot of thought into that. And I was like, there are obviously multiple buckets that it fills, but like, I want to have this agency forever. I love that it feels like family. And I love that we serve clients like yourself, right? What I'm deeply rooted in is knowing that we serve clients that have a ripple effect on the rest of the world. So the language I like to put around it is we are activator of activators. right?
Ooh,
That
that's
do
good.
like that create magic. And my team are all people that are in alignment with that. And I made a mistake. I hired one person a few months back because this person had a dope background, like super great design chops, like ABC. And I was like, I didn't follow my gut, but I was like, hey, let's try something new. Well, this person's like, they seem really talented, but I didn't get that feeling right away that they were like the rest of us because my team and I, we're based in Venice. We go to sound baths together. I take them to energy healing before some of our meetings. We're bringing a human design expert on to do a reading, and like my team loves that. Versus, imagine if we had people on the team that weren't into that, they'd be like, "What the fuck is happening?" You know,
This is weird. Yeah.
this is weird. But versus people that already value that. So I think going back to hiring this one person, it's like I noticed over time, I was like, they can produce great work, but they're not a culture fit. And if they're not a culture fit, they're not going to be driven to the heart and the core of what we do and the people that we serve more than anything. I think that's important. Like a lot of my team, I've been able to find through friends of friends, or they follow the agency or myself on social. So they're already behind our vision and they're already behind the types of people and clients that we have. And they understand people like you, Lindsay. They understand your business model. They understand how to really sub-segment your brand based on, like, you have your podcast and your events and you're this, and you're gonna have a book one day, and you're gonna have a YouTube channel and all these things, and how to really really lay it all out versus people that understand brand and web for like CPG brands or various other things, which we also do, but the main core is like the online entrepreneur.
Yeah. And I think that is part of, so I'll go back to my list. I think I'm on reason number 2 that I am.
Words of affirmation is my love language. So
it is.
Keep
Okay, great. We'll just turn this podcast into a giant words of affirmation. It's recorded. You can go back and listen to it anytime.
Amazing. I appreciate you.
The other thing is you are so clear about who you are and who you're not as a company. So talk a little bit about that, the decision to go all branding and websites, and why you made that decision and what you've seen as a result, just in terms of your results and the impact you're able to make.
Yeah. So the one thing is I've noticed this from a lot of friends and also clients that run businesses too, is like, I think it's almost like coming from scarcity when you're like, oh, we can do anything. Like, what do you want? What do you need? Like, we got you kind of thing. Versus really owning a small handful of things, right? Because there are two benefits to that. If you're really good at, like for us, we just do branding and we just do custom website design and development. Anything outside of that is kind of like we're designers. We can design anything, but we love referring out to other designers, and supporting them, like, to specialists in other fields. And we really own what we want, because from a business model perspective, it keeps things so seamless. All of our workflows are expected. And this also trickles down to the types of clients that we serve, right? So a lot of our clients typically have launches and they have things that are really dependent on our timeline. So we make this very clear. We make our culture really clear during our sales process. Even it's like, yo, this is how we operate. We're very strict with timelines because we want to show up for you. That's not us being like rigid. It's because we are championing for the deadlines that you're putting out there. So anything that we can do that can really make things super replicable, as in like, okay, it's the same workflow every time. It's the same brand process, same web process. We know how to really deliver client expectations. And we also want to make it clear that we are the best of the best when it comes to personal branding, and also how to build websites and sales pages for personal brands. So that's really what we own. And that's what people come to us for.
And to me, as you were even telling that, it's like the permission that you don't have to be all of the things. Going back to your point about what can easily stop us in the beginning of this journey is I do feel like there was like this process for me where I was getting clearer and clearer. So I literally recorded a podcast on it. I called it my buffet year, like the year I was at the buffet, and I was trying a couple different things just to see what resonated. But you have to, I think getting clearer then gives you massive permission to to just know who you are. It makes even decision making a lot easier. So I really, really look up to you and what you've built in that sense, because I think it's just very, very clear who you can serve, how you can help them. And then even like for us this year approaching this, web refresh, it was like, well, of course I want to work with the best. That's like not even a question, right? I know what I need. It's a website, and I know someone who's the best at building out websites. Versus like, this agency could do X, Y, and Z. Should I just get it all in a bundle? But I've done that before, and that hadn't worked out super well. So that's why we're here. That's why we're having the project conversation that we're having.
And you guys, as a tangent, I even noticed this in the mastermind. Like every day when I saw Lindsay, I'd be like, you look dope. Like, I love your outfit. Like, you understand aesthetic so well. So even I even told my team, like I put my lead designers on it. I'm like, yo, you guys are going to like this. Whatever's coming out of this is going to be fun, and we're going to enjoy it. And I'm excited to make magic with you.
Stay tuned. Although we were laughing when we turned on the camera, because I was like, okay, full disclosure, I just threw a sweater, this big chunky sweater on over my workout outfit. She goes, me too. So, like true entrepreneur life, my outfits are not dope all the time. It's a very, calculated thing. Some days are just real life. So, okay, let's talk about this topic of branding. I think branding can feel like such an overwhelming concept. It can also be really misunderstood. Is it my logo? Is it like how my brand makes someone feel? So if you were to just someone handed you a microphone and said, what is branding? Explain branding to us. What is your answer?
This is my favorite thing in the world to talk about, because people are often like, they have the misconception of like, oh, my brand's my logo. When in reality, the way that I personally define branding is it's an emotional response, right? It's like the emotions that people feel when they hear, see, feel your business, right? So it's a super like visceral gut level thing. And it's like your brand style, right? And that honestly, like the foundation of that too is your brand's positioning and your brand's messaging, the way you speak, your tone of voice, things like that. And this all really depends on like the type of business you have. So are you a personal brand like yourself, like Powerhouse Women, or is this a CBD oil company, or are you launching a book, or is it a YouTube brand, or whatever it may be? You really have to think about where the visual and verbal brand lives. So for example, you might have a brick and mortar store or a gym, and that feeling is the feeling people get when they step into it inside your actual physical location, and they speak with the staff, and there's essential oils, and there's music, and there's the aesthetic of the inside. Versus you might have a podcast or YouTube channel, and your brand is your opening music and the tone of voice and the energy you bring to it, and your YouTube banner and your podcast cover, the visual assets of it. So for any of you out there that are listening, just think about your business. Where does it live? Like, where is it being presented, and prioritize that? Because Lindsay, like for you, you probably don't need a business card. Whereas if you own a gym or you're an accountant, you need a business card. So like people are often like, oh, I need to get X, Y, Z assets. Like, no, really focus on the minimum viable product of what you need. Don't get it all done, especially when it's early on. Just focus on what you need to really deliver a message.
Oh, so good. And thank you for the permission to not have business cards. I haven't had a business card since my first little health and fitness business. And I would go to these networking events, and I got tired of saying like, no, I don't have a business card. This is like, whatever year it was.
How stoked were you on your business cards though?
We won't go there. They weren't that cute. This was very early stage. We should have a glass of wine and look at like old branding of probably both of ours. But that's the beauty, is you get to watch the evolution, right? And so when I think about my first like little website and little business card, was literally this blog that never took off to support my health and wellness business called Love Lindsay. And it was very like pinks and purples, and someone designed it for me, and I wanted to throw up because I hate pink and purple together. Like you have this evolution. So I think what's so brilliant that you talk about is it's actually not wise for an entrepreneur to invest in a ton of branding work right away. I would say, and this is just my perspective, because for me it evolved. I had to get clear about who I was and really like that thing I wanted to own before I was ready to put a brand behind it. But then there's this awkward, it's almost like when you're trying to grow up bangs, right? It's like there's this awkward period in between where you want to have an identity, but you may not be in the place to invest in a full-on like branding service like what you offer. What's your best advice for someone who's in that weird middle growing out their bangs of their business phase?
Yes. So what I think a lot of you will find solace in is I have multiple clients and friends that built multiple seven-figure businesses using a DIY brand or something that they put together early on. Like Boss Babe, for example, Natalie always talks about how they had their first logo that she built on paint until we did
Oh
their
my gosh, that's
branding, right?
amazing.
Yeah, same with like Angie, everything was DIY'd.
Uh-huh.
And my client Vanessa Lau, and also Amanda Bucci too. They just bootstrapped in the beginning. It didn't matter. They didn't prevent themselves from launching or putting themselves out there because they didn't have a perfect logo. They just put something out there. They got it done, and then they showed up with their brand, right? They built trust over time. They had really great messaging. They were really consistent with things. And then once they had a brand that was scalable and it was they're ready to reinvest, then they invested. And that's something that in the startup space, we call it proof of concept, right? So a lot of startups, like their shareholders do not allow the team to put money into marketing, advertising, branding, anything like that until the product has reached something called product market fit. Until they know that they've built something that outside of assumption that people are actually buying. Because otherwise you're putting if you're just launching, you're spending all this money doing all these things, but then your ideal demographic might not be resonating with the product. So you're like, oh shit, let's pivot to pregnant moms that need to work out or whatever it might be. And then that'll change because at the end of the day, branding is all about audience. Everything should be reverse engineered to meet the needs of the desired audience and the buyer that you really want to appeal. So if that changes, you're essentially doing all this work for nothing. So that should be malleable. Like the bangs phase should be malleable, right? That because you have the intention of knowing that you will fix that when you get there. So for those of you listening that tend to get in your head about like, oh, I need XYZ and the perfect website and the perfect fonts and colors, and it's too much and overwhelming, just put something out there, show up, know that you can revisit it over time. And there's so many great ways that you can kind of DIY all of that early on. And my agency actually, and it was funny, this is kind of like a business tangent, but the way that I operate, I think my business and my life in general is that I've never necessarily, this isn't super wise, I think probably like when it comes to like building your business or financially, but I never wanted to build out products for what we did because I'm like, no, I love one-on-one, the custom touch points, the human factor of it. And every business coach I've had has been like, no, bring in recurring revenue and products. And I'm like, no, that feels icky. And also this is very overheard in Venice. Just forewarning you, but I did a plant medicine ceremony a year ago. And I had this thing about like, I always do all this visioning with like career and purpose. And this thing came to me about like, you know, we're doing a lot to serve people at a high level, but also there are so many people that are stuck, that are down here and stuck. And how can you serve them? And this isn't coming from a place, I know I've like vetoed the idea early on. I'm like, oh no, that seems like it's another revenue stream, but that's not the heart of what we are. That is the heart of who we are. Cause I want to support people and I want them to feel empowered to launch something without necessarily having the budget and all the means down the line. So that actually started, that was the foundational steps of us launching this product shop that we're finishing up right now. We're calling it the Startup Shop. And it's basically, it's like a way for brand new entrepreneurs to get, we have branding templates for under 400. And then we have Kajabi website and Kajabi sales page templates too. Under $500, you can get your stuff dialed in, up and running within a week. And my intention for that was to really support people that were getting in their own way with like launching their businesses.
I am okay. This is reason number 3. I'm obsessed with BrandUp/you. This is what I needed all those years ago. And luckily, the reason we're even having this conversation today, the reason you guys even listen to this podcast is I never let it completely stop me, but there were absolutely times where it could have. I get it. I get what it feels like to know that you're building into something great and not necessarily having the means to invest in having it look that way from the beginning. But that is such an important part of the journey. So, this is like a subtle, maybe not so subtle plug. If you guys have seen our website for Six Figure School, that is a template that is from BrandUp. And I don't even, did I ever even show you like the
No,
finished
I
version of it? I'm
want to
like,
see
oh my
it.
gosh, this is like, we're both just like so in the doing of our businesses. We
Yeah.
rarely get to like just even, come around and fist bump on the internet back
Let's fist
after
bump.
we initially connect. But yeah, so we use that template. We needed to launch something quickly. I didn't have time to like have something fully designed. It was amazing. And I remember building out and just kind of like at that point was doing a lot of it myself because it was quick, it was easy. But I remember thinking, wow, if I would have had this in the beginning, this would have been just such a confidence builder. And that's why I'm so excited about what you guys are now building out, because our audience is a lot of the women who, and probably men too, hey dudes,
Hey
but who
guys.
are gonna it's okay, we all know you listen, but the people who are really going to be served by this. So I'm so grateful that you listened to that, just that nudge, and it's so true.
Yes. Okay, good. That makes my heart happy.
Yeah. So we'll make sure to link all of that in the show notes. I know that the brand templates are live now, and then a lot of the website templates are going to be coming in a few weeks. So depending on when you listen to this, just keep checking back. And then you'll have to tell everyone too, just like where to find you on social and all of the things so that they can link up with you there too.
Yes. So if you guys want to touch base on Instagram as well, we'll be announcing all of the launches for the web templates as well. So you can find me at Anna Doing Things, and my agency's name is BrandUp. So I think our Instagram handle is We Are BrandUp. So you guys can just check in there. And honestly, I don't say this lightly, but any of you guys, if you want to say hi, DM me. If you have any questions or want to bounce anything off of me, like I'll be on top of my DMs and making sure I can support you guys.
And okay, reason number 4. I love you, obsessed with you. Truly, you are one of the most talented human beings paired with being one of the most generous. And that's now at this point in the game that what my standard is for working with people. I want people that I'm obsessed with and can share, like shout from the rooftops, share what they're doing because of not just their talent, but who they are. And that's you, like all day long. I'm so excited that we finally got to, I feel like this was like a good little teaser. We're going to be doing a lot more inside of some of our programs this year, going a lot deeper into all things branding, websites. But before we wrap, I have a question that I'm obsessed with asking our guests, because I think especially those of us that are just like always in pursuit of the next level, the next version of ourselves, sometimes it can be hard to pause. Remember to pause and acknowledge where we've been great. And we just call it your powerhouse moment. It can literally be the smallest thing in the world or something huge that you've achieved recently in the last couple of weeks. But when you think about a powerhouse moment for you in the last couple of weeks or months, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
That is a beautiful question. Okay. And I don't like overthinking questions like this. I feel like it's
Yeah.
the first thing that comes to mind, but it's like to me it's like the question you asked me about team, and it's something that has really resonated with me the last couple of weeks in particular, but I'm constantly grateful for the types of people that I have in my team and the kind of energy that I have, because it's the same regard as when you hire somebody or you work with people. For me, it's all about an energetic fit, because you're working with them, you're supporting their business. And for me too, it's the same with my team. It's like people that I get to talk to every day, and it's people that I know, like the energy between them showing up for me and my team and our company, and then also like that supports their lifestyle and their livelihood as well. So just that like cycle makes me so happy, and that lights me up so much, and it makes me so happy to be like, shit, like this is what I've built, and that comes back to the root of like my why of what I do. So that makes me feel good.
I love that. And that's what a reflection too of, just what's all the goodness that's on the inside of you and your huge heart. So I'm so excited that we were able to do this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.